Hello everybody and welcome to the finale of Let's Play Donkey Kong 1994. And this is the final world of the game, ladies and gentlemen, the Tower. And so basically what it is here is that, as you can probably hear that, whenever you start a stage, it actually plays the, this sinister theme instead of the other lighthearted jingle. This whole world is basically a boss gauntlet. Well, it's actually more like a gauntlet of having to get over to DK and Pauline. But yeah, it's not like the other worlds where it's or in a traditional sense where you just pick up the key. No, the whole thing is basically just a gauntlet of having to get over to DK. And so it's very short, and actually not quite so hard though. I mean, it's kind of ironic considering that the other worlds had their own set of challenges. But this one, it's not really as troublesome though. I mean, there's quite a few obstacles they had to deal with. But this one here kind of did take me a while though because you wanted to. You want to watch out with the conveyor belts here, and also with falling debris that falls from the sky whenever DK stomps on the ground. And also, of course, you want to make sure to jump as soon as he lands on the floor, because the impact will cause Mario to get stun locked. So yeah, there we go. And yeah, it's taking me a while because I had to wait until DK Jr. would have to open and close the or just open up the floor with the lever that he pulls. But yeah, there's not very many stages here, for one thing, because, and it doesn't really take all that long, so, it's definitely a pretty short one. But yeah, all it is here is that you just go through, very much like in the arcade version, or those arcade-based stages where, just getting over to Pauline, so, yeah, because of that, that wouldn't really take as long. But what you can see here is that, what we're doing here is that, we're basically climbing up the tower. So the whole thing is, it's actually a tower climb to get to the top. And so as you go through the stages themselves, then you basically just keep them progressing through the tower all the way until you get to the top. And yeah, that's what it is here. And yeah, it actually does take place in the same as previous world in Rocky Valley, because I mean we actually did see a precursor to the tower where we did see the foot of the tower itself. So it's all it's basically all connected here, especially since we see the whole in the background of all these rocky formations, because it's all in Rocky Valley. But yeah, other than that though, then it should be pretty quick too. Some of them might take a while though, because because they have to. Oh yeah, that's pretty close. I'm not sure if they actually killed Mario upon contact with them. Those walking skulls. But yeah, other than that though, some of them will probably take a while because having to because well, basically all DK Jr. is gonna do is just open and close those levers. So you just have to wait until he opens them again. So it's just a matter of having to play the waiting game as well. And yeah, avoid those poison mushrooms that he throws at you, because they just well, actually DK himself will just throw these poison mushrooms. All right, so that's that done, and so up next is going to be the mid-boss fight itself. And there we are. All right, so for this one, as you can see, you probably recognize this right here. This whole thing is it's based off the final level in Donkey Kong Jr. Only this time, what we're actually doing instead of freeing DK himself is that we're actually bringing the keys upwards, and we're actually imprisoning Donkey Kong Jr. So yeah, it's actually the tables have turned, where it was all just all kind of twisted around, where DK Jr. himself actually set his Papa free, but now we're actually just doing the opposite here. So just giving him an occasion here, and it's kind of surprising that that Junior doesn't even take the hint. That, he sees the bars rising up. He doesn't even he doesn't even take into account that he's actually about to be in prison. And see, look at that. He doesn't even get the chance or opportunity to escape. Also, yeah, I essentially cleared the game, but I ate the poison mushroom, and so I actually just went and just shrunk down here. So yeah, now Junior has been imprisoned, and I guess DK just goes and abandons his own son in the cage. Just just so he can grab Pauline, just to climbing up to the tower. He just leaves his own son in the cage. Wow. Okay, Father of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. It's only one thing that he actually goes and causes problems for Mario just by kidnapping Pauline, but to actually leave his own son, god damn, that's a little too far there. Man, what a great dad, wouldn't you say? Well, I guess all things considered for what he actually later turns out to be, and for what we already know him as, and I mean, maybe it'd be something like that though. Maybe he was always a bad father anyway though. So. Alright, so this one right here. Now, you probably recognize this one too. This whole structure of this stage here is very much exactly the same as the very first stage in the arcade version. You know, the very first iconic construction site level, where you go those ladders here. You know, it was already like that whenever we first started this game, only it was a lot smaller here. But no, it's actually literally the same exact size as in the original arcade version or the NES version. It's only that the camera moves upwards because, you know, it's a lot bigger than how it actually had to fit the Game Boy screen. But yeah, it's, you know, very much the same kind of structure for that there. So very much a nice little callback or a bookends moment of you know, the first stage of the game. So, you know, just kind of like, you know, take a little reflection of, you know, how far you've come here. Now, this one I had a bit of trouble with because, you know, you have to go across those electrical wires, and you have to avoid those sparks as well. And so, problem is, there's that walking skull right here, and also, yeah, he cannot be picked up. He is also indestructible because, you know, I tried to toss the other enemy over to the walking skull, but it did not affect it at all. So, and yeah, you really want to be careful as you're swinging across this diagonal pole line. Because if you actually go a little too far, you want to make sure to time it just right. Because if you actually do it at the fastest speed, then you'll fling right over to DK himself, and then he will grab you and throw you over, and then that actually kills Mario. So yeah, that's something I never really mentioned though. That if you actually get close to DK, that's how he grabs Mario, and then he just slams him hard at the ground, and then that's actually what kills him. All right, so for this last one, this one's also pretty easy though, but you have to just watch out for the disintegrating sand platforms. So you just go right up there, and there we go. And so we have, yeah, just having to do this over and over. But we should be just about reaching to the top of the tower here, because, yeah, we're definitely getting pretty close. We're kind of up in the sky. And then there we go. So now we're at the very top of the tower here, stage 9 to 8. You know, where DK's face is. And so here we go, and here we have the boss here. All right, so this would be the last boss fight against DK himself, and so... see, I said this before, where he would just go and toss his barrels at you, and you want to just pick them up and toss them at him. Only there's a bit of a catch though. You're actually going to be dealing with the wind, so your control is going to be having you pushing forward because of the wind. But another thing about it though is that DK will actually throw those barrels more aggressively, to where, you know, whenever they even if they land on the ground, they never go right back up for you to pick up on them. So what you have to do is that you have to have Mario do the handstand ability, and you want to make sure to have his shoes to make contact with the barrels, and then that way there they can actually just go and be able to be picked up. So that way they can just pick it up and then toss him over at DK himself. So because of that, it can be a bit lengthy because of it, because, you know, having to you know, just, you know, wait until you can actually find the right time for the barrels. And then you also want to make sure to avoid the mushrooms too, or the poison mushrooms, so that way there you wouldn't get struck down. Also, the music is a lot different here. Instead of this rather whimsical kind of boss fight that plays, it's actually this one's a little more intense, I would say, because, you know, because you very much reach the final level, and then actually this music plays, and, you know, actually shows how far you come. It actually sounds a little more frantic and desperate because of it. Even though you're actually just tossing barrels at a monkey, which actually seems comical though, but. Yeah, they actually made some kind of a desperate sounding kind of music track there for this. Kind of make this seem like a bit more climactic, I would say. It's actually a good track too, I will say that much though. And then there we go. So that's done, and so DK is now down, and so we did it. We have defeated DK at long last, and so we finally got our girlfriend back. And so we did it. That is the end of the game, ladies and gentlemen. We are finally done. Pauline has been rescued, and it's been such a wonderful ride, and DK has finally finished once and for all. Just goes and falls from the tower, and so, yeah, we did it, guys. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this and seeing me take us through this journey so far. It's been a fun ride, and so I will hope to see you guys in the next Let's Play, so stay tuned until then. Wait, what? Stage 9-9? We're not done? Really? What the hell? Okay, then I guess we may not be done yet. Is there, oh. Why is it smiling at us? This is creepy. Oh, okay, oh, there's a weird glitch right there. Whoa, what the hell? Flying mushrooms, what the hell is going on here? Power up here. Oh, yep, it's giant Donkey Kong, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, well, folks, this is it. This is the true final boss in the entire game. Giant Donkey Kong. So, after he ate all the mushrooms and grew to gigantic size, and this is actually where the real final battle is, and so this is where it gets a lot more intense here. So with a giant Donkey Kong here, what he'll do is that he has the fist that will start slamming on the ground, and it causes the ground to shake upon impact. And so that gets Mario to get a stun lock. And you want to make sure not to go under this fist because he will squish you. And so every time that happens, the debris will start falling down. But then there's also the barrels as well. And some of them will actually start falling over, but then one of them will actually just tip over to its vertical position, so that way they can actually pick it up. So once you do pick it up, then all you gotta do is just toss him over to his face, and then he gets hit like that here. And also what we can do is that as they start falling down, you can also just use a handstand and just pick them back up. But it actually gets a little tricky though because fists will actually start going over again, and they will try to slam on the ground. And so and every time that happens, all the barrels will get destroyed. So you have to wait until the next few barrels come over. And very creepily so, like, you know, DK actually continues to stare at Mario as he goes around. All right, so that's done, and now we're on to the next phase here. I think this comes in like 3 phases, basically, or 2 phases. I would say like 3 phases, but this next phase, what he'll do is that he'll actually go and just bring his fists all together, and then just kind of like clap it in to try to squish Mario as well. So you want to make sure to jump at the right opportunity to avoid all that. And just watch over the barbells as you go along as well. And so that's what it is here. And I will say this much, folks. This boss fight is tough. And, you know, it can be a pain in the ass sometimes, especially having to toss the barrels over, but then its fist will come back over at the in such a short time. So, yeah, you want to make sure you time it just right. You know, as soon as you're able to pick up the barrel and then just toss them over at him. And, you know, sometimes you might miss as well, and especially, you know, where Mario actually gets stun locked as he tosses the barrel. Okay, yeah, I was right. There actually are 3 phases for this here. All right, so for this one, yeah, he's gonna just have his fist appear, and then he'll try to squish you as well. So you wanna go to the very side of the wall to avoid all that. So yeah, here we are on to phase 3 here. So yeah, just keep doing this whole kind of strategy here. I can actually be able to go on top of DK's nose, or just on his upper mouth itself, to as a platform. And they can also just go on top of one of his fists to use as a platform. But then he'll actually just bring his fist back over, and then it'll just disappear. And so that's actually the only way to get to those higher platforms, because, you know, they're definitely a lot higher to reach, especially even if you're going right on top of DK's nose. So just keep going, and yeah, it can be a pain in the ass, but, you know, just keep doing it, and there we go. And so that is it, folks. And so we can actually tell by the look on DK's face that, yep, he is done. DK has now officially been defeated once and for all, and so now we have finally rescued Pauline once and for all, and now we're done with this game. And so we'll see how this ending plays out. So probably just see this one last goofy scene here. And we got here. Oh, a mushroom. I got Mario freaks out. I was like, oh no, what are you doing to me? But then he becomes Super Mario. All right, so that's okay, that hurt. I mean, that probably. Oh no, he's still alive. And oh yeah, I guess even more super here. I love it. I was like, help! Yeah, just kind of a bit of irony right there. And there we go. No, oh, look at that! This last photo here. So it actually shows that, you know, despite everything that DK pulled, they actually decided to, hey, you know, you kicked my ass, so let's be friends. So yeah, they actually decided to make amends, and they actually shows in the group photo that, you know, they all decided to become friends, you know, with no hard feelings. So it's like, okay, well, that was random, but all right, I guess we're friends now, even though I've kicked your ass plenty of times. So but anyways, so yeah, this is it. There's the credits, and so that was Donkey Kong 1994 for the Game Boy. So yeah, here's my final thoughts about it. Though it's a fantastic game. I really had such a great time with it. I will say this much though. And yeah, granted, I mean, there are a couple asshole stages, you know, especially with some certain puzzle elements that you have to be stuck on. You have to figure things out. And I know for one thing, this game is very much puzzle heavy, and there's a lot of stuff you have to figure out. And, you know, there can be a lot of frustration involved, especially in some certain stages that, you know, well, some sort of addiction to design elements. But despite all that, though, this game is a lot of fun. And even then, like, whenever I figure something out and actually pass the stage because of it, I always get this feeling of satisfaction and all that here. And, you know, this game really does a good job with it having to, you know, just give you this feeling of satisfaction of just, you know, going through all these stages and actually figuring things out. And, you know, it's definitely, one of those more underrated kind of Game Boy games. You know, there hasn't gotten really a lot of attention here. But I will say, though, for those who actually play the game, I would say, you definitely would be having a good time. And I had a lot of fun playing this game, too. It's definitely a great experience. Another job well done from Nintendo. And especially considering the fact that, it's definitely a very creative and original idea, with taking the cues from the original Donkey Kong Arcade, where, just sort of just playing like the original. And then just expanding upon the game itself by adding more stages and all that, more intensity and all that, just basically like making this the whole definitive experience for the arcade Donkey Kong, and and especially very impressive, especially for a game released on the Game Boy itself. Definitely one of those lesser handheld consoles from the 8-bit consoles that's a handheld. And also, yeah, by the way, folks, this is one of those games where, you get to the end screen and you can't proceed onwards. You try to press A or the start button, and it doesn't proceed onwards. You get stuck at that, so you have to start out the game to actually just be able to proceed. So, yeah, I hate it when games do that, but, that's actually what it used to be like. But yeah, it really does make for a real true definitive experience for the arcade Donkey Kong. Especially on the Game Boy, though, because that's, very impressive on Nintendo's part to actually be able to add more levels and all that. And also just expanding more Mario's abilities and with expanding on that here. And and I gotta say, because of that, it really does make for a definitive experience for the Donkey Kong Arcade. And I will say this much though, that after playing this game, it can actually be hard to go back to the original arcade version or even the NES version. I mean, of course, if you actually want some good old history, you can just play those games, because since they're definitely a product of their time. But since releasing this game though, and it's hard to go back to those other ones because it does wonders for everything that was there. Just playing the arcade version first, but then go through those more of those levels though, and it's such a great and original idea that Nintendo would do, and just full props to them for being able to actually implement it, especially on the Game Boy, which is actually really impressive. So I will say this much: that if you haven't already, I would definitely recommend this game. Especially those of you who are very much puzzle fanatics and like to figure things out here. And I know it can be grueling at some points though, but of course, yeah, if you ever want to experience this game, I definitely would recommend this one though, because I would say you're gonna have such a good time and a hell of a lot of fun with this game itself though. And it is available on the Nintendo Switch Online on the Game Boy app. This is actually the version I was playing right here. Or of course, if you already have a Game Boy itself though, or a Game Boy Color or anything like that though, and you have a copy with you, you can play that as well. But if you have a Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2, and if you have a subscription for the NSO, it is available on the Game Boy app, and I definitely would recommend you play that. So you can actually play that on there too. But yeah, if you're looking for some fun in this one, I'd say this game is definitely good for that, and it really does make for a definitive experience for the arcade ones, and so it's something that that I would just go back to this one if I ever want to play the arcade classic, or just some classic Donkey Kong, just going back to this game. So overall, it's definitely a fantastic game, and I would very much recommend it though. And it's something I actually have wanted to play for a long time, but I just never got the chance to. But I'm glad I was finally able to. I did play this on the 3DS Virtual Console, and it was a lot of fun. It's great to actually go back to this game and just do the full playthrough here. So overall, fantastic game, and definitely would recommend it. So you definitely are in for a good time. You definitely, I would say definitely one of the greatest Game Boy games of all time. I will say that much though. So, alrighty, I guess that should just about do it here, and I will also want to say that this might be the last time we kind of see this incarnation of Donkey Kong, because there is going to be another Donkey Kong that we'll see here, but just a little different incarnation though. But I mean, we'll definitely see the same guy though, but just I would say aged differently here. But speaking of which though, now this is done, that's pretty much all there is for the classic Donkey Kong games, and so for the next installment of the Donkey Kong Marathon, we are going to be going to one of the more legendary ones, and actually what started the true legend of a certain company that would actually go down in history for what actually impacted everyone, especially for the Donkey Kong franchise itself. Though, you guys know what I'm talking about. We're going to be going to Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo, and oh yeah, this is actually where the whole Donkey Kong craze truly began, and this is actually where the legend comes in. And so I'm excited for this one. I'm sure you guys will be too. So, next time, we're going to be going right to Donkey Kong Country, and stay tuned for that. Be excited. I'm excited. So, with that said, I will see you guys for Donkey Kong Country.